The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Live tonight from the Talladega Superspeedway, we say good evening sim racing fans and welcome to LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series on iRacing Live. As we get set for this second race on this Season 14 Championship, we're happy to welcome you topside into the LSRTV broadcast booth. As always, alongside with myself, Evan Pasoko, Austin Coop topside, in the booth with me downstairs, the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza, pushing the buttons and bringing us to you here this evening. The pageantry and the festivities around the Superspeedway 500 as of 1 week ago have come and gone, and now we get to really focus on this 14th season of championship racing. Some things to note that have changed since we last talked to you last Friday night when we stepped away. Josh Ball was your winner of the Superspeedway 500 after what was a technical rainout at the end of that after some electrical issues. The story since then is after the mandatory post-race review, the win was taken away for the 48 because he had an unclaimed caution flag earlier on in the race, and Mark Jorgensen Jr., therefore, is your Superspeedway 500 winner. So, with all of that drama surrounding the race 1 week ago, Coop, we come into tonight to get set for the next 13 weeks of action that are going to make up the regular season. And for those who have been tuning in a lot with us on Friday nights over the seasons, it's the same old song and dance. Every race from this point on, going to be 250 miles. It means that when we're in Daytona, like we will be next week, it'll be 100 laps. But tonight from Talladega, it's 94 laps. We'll dance back and forth as the season goes on, but I think that a lot of guys just ready to get back into the swing of things. It's something that we talked about a little bit last week, is that normally these guys have a season finale, and then they get right back into the action. They were off for a month before last week's race, so coming into tonight, I think they're kind of ready, just getting back to the grind.
Yeah, and watching these guys have that, or knowing that these guys had that time off is, I think, really good. That gives them time to, one, they got to spend the holidays over the December time, and also every Friday they got time to think, all right, I get to come back to racing, and now they're finally here, and they get to, I think they're going to have a little bit more fun. Sometimes when you take a break like that, Evan, us included on the Fridays, you realize that you really do like what you do on Fridays, and coming back to the old grind, you'll see some drivers pop back in and out, winning and doing the thing that they do best. You know, Jorgensen last week winning third in qualifying right now, and then you have others that might pop up here and there as the season continues, kind of like a rebirth, if you will, and getting everything back in motion again is kind of a interesting thing to watch.
So your race winner from 1 week ago, Mark Jorgensen Jr., collected his 10th career Superspeedway Club win as of that 1 week ago, and therefore through one race plus a couple of points handed out here and there for the duels, he does sit at the top of our current championship standings. The only driver with a win officially on the board, 104 points behind the driver of the number 88, Garrett Atwell, Shade McKeechin, Brandon Cruz-Monsivice, and Ronnie Wofford. Your top five in the championship, Joshua Hanner, Chris Bassini, Frank Basilia, Andrew Berger, Brandon Chaburko, the top 10. This season could very well end with those names in that very order. We'll talk about how this season is going to play out. As I noted, for the next 13 weeks, we will go regular season racing. One race is now gone. We go into round number 2 tonight. Rounds 1 through 14, Coop, going to be the regular season for these guys. There will be 3 drop weeks in those 14 races. A win automatically guarantees you a ticket into the chase for the championship. So, of course, if you get a win early, makes life easy for you. I don't think we'll really be putting too much emphasis on that, though, till we get a little bit later on in the season when we start talking about big names who we feel like should be in victory lane to that point that have been shut out. But so far, season's getting off fresh started. These guys really just want to get out there, have some fun, and kind of kick some of the rust off, if you will.
Yeah, and something that I'm really interested in is those drop weeks for the guys who may or may not get in by points. And that's kind of an interesting point system to go by too, because that really puts emphasis even more on winning those races, because you won't have to worry about a drop week just winning. But those drop weeks can help you if you have a couple wrecks. You know, they have the resets available in these cars. I do believe they have one fast repair. And then they can rely on that once in a race, and then they can rely 3 times during the regular season on if that reset didn't work, and then again they didn't get a good finish. So every race you got to be up towards the front, and that really starts putting the pressure on too of always being up towards the front, because you don't want to have to rely on those drop weeks.
And you talk about the drop weeks taking some of those worst finishes out of this thing. There will be 5 drivers at minimum who do not get a win that will get a ticket in the championship. The top 5 drivers in points without a win will also get a bye. If there are not 12 total drivers with that, we'll fill it up with the 6th and 7th and so on in the points without a win. With that being said, though, we are set to get the first regular race of the season underway. It's the second round on this Season 14 championship. We go trackside and take a look at tonight's LSRTV starting grid. The Drive for Autism pole award tonight belongs to Derek Walker, a 5869 to put that number 20 Chevrolet on pole, and he will be joined on the front row by another familiar face in the 87 of Ray Rittenauer the second. Last week's winner, Mark Jorgensen Jr., going to start tonight in third. Rodney Wofford to his outside in the number 4 spot. Josh Hanner behind the 2 car this season will be inside of the top 5.
And Frank Brasilia, he'll be on the 3rd row on the outside in 6th. Corey Henry 7th. Chris Passini will start 8th. Paul Servant is going to get that number 3 car in 9th, and Andrew Berger in that 24 is going to be 10th.
11th position tonight belongs to Remote Evans. Dominic Dyball, fastest driver in the practice session earlier tonight, will start in 12th. The unlucky number 13 starting position tonight belongs to Josh Vickery. Matt Quick will start his outside on row number 7 in 14th position. Just behind them, Shane McEachin with a P15.
And Glenn Hendrick, it will start 16th with Scott Saunders right behind him, 17th with Kelly Dahl. Our own Kelly Dahl, 18th with Garrett Atwell, 19th, and then Scott Warren will finish out the top 20.
League admin Rod Flagg going to find himself back in 21st tonight. Gary Champion will start in 22nd. Dan Harrington will start tonight 23rd, 24th for Monsivice, and you got Daniel Holloway in 25th.
Greg Hook starts 26th with Andy Kessler behind him, 27th. Joel Wood will start 28th. Roger Stewart, 29th. Jay Altman in 30th with Brandon Chaburko, Dwayne Cooper, and Larry Camp not making time, so they'll start at the end with provisional.
So look top to bottom at your LSRTV starting grid. We talk about this Talladega Superspeedway, the site for half the races on this campaign. And unlike Daytona, where we'll switch back and forth a couple of times between the regular circuit and, of course, the older circuit with the bumps and such, it's Talladega straight up all season long. This racetrack, 2.66 miles in length, which means it only takes us 94 laps to get to tonight's 250-mile distance. The turns banked at 33 degrees off in quarters number 1 and 2, and at 32.5 off at the other end of the racetrack in 3 and 4. As always, we're happy to have you with us at LSRTV at iRacing Live. The iRacing.com Ford Mustang pace car going to make the sharp left-hand turn down and off and away to the safety of the pit lane. The field is going to be in the hands of the 20 Derek Walker. He has to wait for them to drop the green flag to get this race officially kicked off. The field going to cycle through the tri-oval off to the short chute to the flag stand. American Ethanol green flag flies, and we're underway.
Yeah, always, we're going to have side-by-side action. Going to see some of these guys trying to get down to the bottom as soon as possible. And as always, we see for these guys, with a little bit gap between the 3 and the 24. That's Chris Passini and Andrew Berger right there. Maybe trying to work together. As you're seeing some cars slide in, slide out. Backstretch going to be the busiest place right now. But watching that 24 on the outside, he's the only one there, and he's going to be left out to dry. But we're going to see that a lot tonight.
Guys up front at least got off and going. The top 4 rows side by side by side. That little bit further back is where you see that driver you were talking about on the outside. I don't know, he's lonesome as he slides back just a little bit. Andrew Berger not getting any help as everybody really starts to gang up on the inside of the racetrack. The 94 Frank Basilia, he'll go top to bottom in the 94 McDonald's Ford, but he does leave the door open. That 12 of Corey Henry get a peek at those to the inside, and as the one of Chris Passini even steps to the line behind. We're now at 4 drivers on the outside lane inside of the top 10. The first 2.66 miles complete, and your driver who's able to lock up the first bonus point. Driver who started on pole, Derek Walker, led that opening lap.
Yeah, look at Ray right now. We're still on the outside line, seeing if he's got anything to go for him. And you're going to see the inside line actually start to move up a little bit. I think trying to make sure that those guys go the longer route on the outside, and it is working. You're going to see that bottom lane. It's going to start to actually work a little bit better throughout turn 4 here, as you're going to see the 88 give a huge push to Derek Walker, and he's going to get the lead, and probably by a car length or so. And it's kind of the old song and dance. You're going to see that outside line just peter off a little bit. And but it's not going anywhere that soon. You know, typically we do see that outside lane lose its girth or its power quite soon, quite quickly. But it is only having 3 cars right now. But I'd say in the next couple of laps you'll see these guys come down. But there goes the 88 trying to go up there. Look at that move, and now they're 4 abreast on the out.
He just kind of bullied his way through, and it's going to work out. Jorgensen in the 88 back down to the inside, and a race winner from Daytona to the race lead early at Talladega. He was not clear, though, on that 87, Ray Rittenauer. And for being this early on in the race, I'm not surprised that the 87 cut him a break. I don't expect that the 87 is going to give much room back to Jorgensen if they find themselves back on each other's door over the next 93 some odd laps or so. But that was a little bit tight for lap 3 in the race. Nonetheless, it worked out for the 88. He has a race lead, and it gave that inside line now a 4-car advantage as the outside tries to regain some momentum.
Funny thing is that he went straight to the lead, and now there's no one to really challenge him. You're seeing the the line change a little bit, but now there goes the challenge as soon as I say it. So there goes the 20 of Walker right back to the outside, trying to do the same. Going to try and pick up the 87, it looks like. But that inside line, this is going to be the first time you see such an organization like that start to form for an outside line. And now it looks like the 88 is going to be 3rd, probably 4th before this is all over. But that inside line will come back. And look, we're right where we were just a little bit ago with that inside line. 20 and then the 88 on the inside.
And back nose to nose, and in fact, the outside going to get it at the start-finish on the beauty at Talladega is that if when we were at Daytona, it would have been the 20 who led that lap. However, Josh Hanner was able to get his first lap led on the night. The problem for the guys that he outside is you really got to wind up that momentum. The 2 had all the speed in the world, and he actually had a half a car length, 3/4 of a car length advantage when they went off to the corner. But they went up the hill, up to 33 some odd degrees of banking. It slowed them down. You see the same thing here. They went down the back straightaway, gained a lot of speed, but the inside fights back on the bottom. You really need to nail the run off the corner. If you're going to do something on the inside, looks like the 2's in a good spot here.
Yeah, and he's going to actually come right there in front of Derek Walker. That means that outside line is going to get a little bit of a surge as well. Every time you get a driver from the outside line coming right back down to the bottom line, that does bulk up that bottom line just a little bit. But they're now in 1 and 2, making it so that Josh Hanner has the shortest route around this track, getting himself the lead and probably in a good position right now.
Taking a look the last time by, the top 17 cars within 1 second of each other at the start-finish line. The side-by-side up front occupies every single position inside of the top 9 with 5 cars on the bottom and 4 drivers on the outside of the racetrack. There's a lot of guys hanging back just a little bit out of the picture that are not out of this thing. Really, from that 24 on back, we were talking earlier about how Andrew Berger was slotting. He's able to get back up to P11. He is leading right now, what has mainly been a single-file charge. The 20 to Shane McEachin has stepped out of line to go to the top side, but these guys were a little bit off of the lead pack. They got single file, caught up to the back bumper, the 13 out of 97, and now essentially making this thing just one big, large lead pack.
Yeah, and that line is going to continue. You see a big pack behind them, and they're pretty scattered. They're not going to catch these guys in front of them if they keep doing it, and I don't understand why they're not forming up, because they are going to lose the top pack if they keep at it. Looking about how they're 2 abreast, and there's a car on the bottom, and a car all by itself as well. These guys are going to lose a lot of time if they're trying to catch the pack. But possibly they're trying to just make sure that they avoid a big wreck if it happens. But at this point, oh wow, talking about that second pack, a little bit of a jar up actually just happened there, and a lot of guys somehow saving it. Looks like the number 19 car was a part of that.
Yeah, things gonna stay green up at the front of the field, but some issues there as they came into the tri-oval. A couple of the guys got close down on that yellow line, and Looked like they were all able to bring it back under control and hang on. There is now some separation between those guys. I was kind of surprised when I did see that 28, I believe it was, Shane McGeechan, go to the outside. He was a part of that single file line. Not surprisingly, he's fallen back, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to hook back onto the back of the draft of this big lead pack. His saving grace is there's that second large pack not all that far behind him, and he might even end up leading that pack if they just catch up and decide to stay on his back bumper. But he's in 17th position, kind of in no man's land at the moment. The guys up front aren't necessarily pushing. I can guarantee you, if you're about 4th on the back end line, on either the bottom or the top side, you're consistently feathering the throttle. As you see these guys trying to play a little bit of lane splitting up at the front of the field. Hanner on the outside with a big bump from the 88, and slicing to the inside is Jorgensen, and he got him. The two tried to come down, wasn't quick enough. Mark Jorgensen with the dangles on the back straightaway, going to put himself to the point in the center of 3 and 4.
I'll tell you what, he's not making any friends out there, but sometimes you don't need friends to win the race. And seeing now he's not going to get that help. Tries to go back to the bottom. He's not there. They're 3 wide for the race lead, I should say. It's almost like they're racing for the win. And the 2 car is going to have it. They're still 3 abreast for second right now, and you're going to see a couple more lanes pop up, and it's going to give only the guys behind them a chance to really do well. But now you have a big break. You have the 2 and you have the 1 of Chris Passini. Really kind of far out there, and you're going to see these guys really pick up a lot of speed behind them and possibly pass them. This is where it starts to get dicey as the leaders. You're going to see Jorgensen make that move to the outside there on the back straightaway.
We know that the 88 machine has no intentions of making any new friends. The guys who he's already friends with on a racetrack that he can, consistently work with on a week in and week out basis aren't going to care if he makes a couple of dicey moves because he tends to associate himself with a lot of the other guys who like to make those moves. But it's those other drivers who we noted very specifically after the 88 didn't really give a break to the driver who started up to the front of the field earlier in this one, Ray Rittenauer, who has since fallen to 16th position. You cut him off, he's not going to cut you a break. Big slot on the inside, and now problems in 1 and 2. The 24 into the fence, caution.
Yeah, that all happened with the car going straight to the yellow line. It's like a bump went wrong there. It looks like the 83 and the 97, huge checkup, and then we're going to see the replay coming up here just shortly. Big loser on that was the 89 and the 24 right there. 24 hard damage on that right side as the 82 came in late on that one. Nothing you could do. I do believe the 82 is, it looks like Dan Harrington was a part of that.
And Harrington gives him a shot. It also looks like Andy Kessler got hooked and went up pretty hard into the outside fence of the drivers involved. Garrett Atwell going to get some damage in that one. Also looked like there was damage on some of the cars closer to the front. But a little bit of contact. And again, I was just talking about how the guys that are inside, at least to that point, didn't look like they were really forcing the issue that much. And if you're consistently feathering the throttle and not pushing, then you are able to kind of avoid these situations, or at least leave some space between cars so that a situation like this doesn't arise. And that big checkup, they grouped up in really the worst place that could happen, and that was going off into the corner, and it happened so quickly that he almost got away with it, but the 24 got hooked from behind by the 28, and unfortunately they were still too wide behind. A lot of guys had nowhere to go. Andy Kessler, a good example, LSRTV's own, who was well behind where it started, but a car came spinning down the racetrack, just clipped him in the right rear, and it hooked him into the fence as well.
Yeah, those lobsters are definitely tonight, but at the same time, you have to think about the kind of like the slinky effect that I like to say. These guys start to bunch up so much that once you have a bad bump, that's all that was, and that's all how it started, was just one little bad bunch. Definitely one big bunch up, and that little mistake really cost a lot of these guys that are all coming down pit road.
Going to be led by race leader Mark Jorgensen Jr. Didn't look like there was much hesitation coming to the line. You saw those guys speed it up, coming to the commitment cone, and then jam back on the brakes. It wouldn't be unfamiliar to see an issue happen onto the pit lane, but the 88 is into the box nice and clean. Into pit stall number 3, the driver who started on pole position, Eric Walker, pitting it not yet into the box. The 88 machine out and away, slotted off of the pit lane. A good battle for what I think was second off of pit road. Hanner just going to be able to beat out Basilia. In front of them all was Jorgensen, but Garrett Atwell in the number 4, first driver off of pit road. That's because he missed his pit stall, so he'll cycle back around and especially with the damage, I'm sure going to be down there for quite some time. So it does look like Jorgensen's going to be able to retain the lead out of pit road, but how about Mr. Rod Flagg? The number 10 Chevrolet appears to have been the only driver to stay out, and he'll assume the top spot on track.
It's not a bad plan at this point. You're only 11 laps in. You'll have to at least make 2 more pit stops still. So he should be able to make it. I mean, he'll have to make a 3rd pit stop eventually, or another pit stop before these guys, of course, if they continue to go green flag. But there's always that chance, and there's always a higher chance at a super speedway that you'll have a caution come out, and maybe you're the leader, and then everyone starts to come down, get those fuel and get that fuel and tires, that fuel and tire plan. And so I bet that's the deal for him, or trying to get some bonus points as well. He did cross the start-finish line once, so give him those points, and then perhaps he'll come down this time, or maybe even wait.
We know, or at least we assume, that the 4 is going to be coming down. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen somebody stay out like Rod Flagg has done and then decide to come down to the pit lane after securing the bonus point, and it's exactly what he's going to do. He'll make the sharp left-hand dive pretty late off to the pit lane, but he is going to give up that position, and not only is that going to drop him back, because he was 19th when the caution flag came out. This should put him all the way down, if not to the end of the line of lead lap cars, at least close to the end around P30. So that bonus point, maybe he feels like it's worth dropping those 12 positions back to about that 30th spot. We'll find out if it pays off in the long run. Again, it is still early, so you can't necessarily be against a strategy move like that. Lock up the bonus point, because again, we noted a win locks you in, but there are going to be at least those 5 positions to get in on points, so trying to get a little bit of extra insurance never hurt anybody.
Yeah, and something I just noticed, speaking of leading laps, Andy Kessler appears to be the leader at the moment, which is a little interesting. He obviously had to come down pit road, so I don't know how he's the leader, but he is at the moment in front of Mark Jorgensen Jr. We'll just have to see this plays out, but it's kind of I could have swore Andy was crab walking down the back straightaway, and Cal cattywampus and came down the pits, and then now he's back up the front.
So we'll see if the lights go on top of the pace car this time. If they do, to give us a restart with 15 laps complete to that. Again, you get green flag stretches in races like this, and these things can absolutely just fly on by. If you get into the cautions, it can seem like a relatively slow pace. As a driver, I think that you might get bored to some extent, pace it around just a little bit, but I think the constant restarts and the double fire restarts quite specifically are what going to maybe make this race quite interesting, because as we noted, Andy Kessler going to go to the race lead. Kind of interested how all that worked out for him, because again, he was in the accident, used his quick fix, and somehow through all of that ends up in the top spot for the moment. So if you had to choose one way to get into an accident, I think that the 98 figured something out.
Yeah, I think I'll have to go back and take a look at how he got there, because it did see him at the very end start passing in the entire field to get up there. So perhaps an iRacing glitch that really went into his favor. That would be quite awesome for that team. But it wouldn't surprise me that it has been a while since that's happened, but it seems like a few things like that have been happening a little bit lately. But nevertheless, he's still there, and there is his EOL penalty to go to the back of the field.
So he is going to drop to the back, but he did get a bonus point in the back pocket, and essentially ended up playing the same strategy card as Rod Flagg. So by the time we come back to green flag conditions, we would have had 3 different race leaders under this cycle of service. We'll double things back up out of the drivers involved in that accident. Only Daniel Holloway at the moment has lost his lead lap status. He goes 2 laps down, and will try to fight his way back to the lead lap. He would need at least 2 more yellows to be able to do so, unless he's able to get 2 wave bys in one trip around. But again, for those drivers who did utilize that mulligan, the quick fix as it's known, and for those who may be unfamiliar with the service, a quick fix essentially gives you a brand new car. So you can decide not to take it, and for those who have already used it, you're going to have to sit on pit road for however much time the sim determines you need to get your car fixed. A quick fix is allotted 1 per driver every single race, and it basically gets you right back out there. So you're back in the action. The problem is the car you're now on track with is the only one you've got left for the next 70 some odd laps.
Yeah, and for those guys who use it earlier, that's going to be a big pain to know that this is the last chance you really have. Once this car is dinged up, it's over. But I also want to put a little bit there for Daniel Holloway. He's 2 laps down, but there's no car 1 lap down. So he will get the lucky dog unless he gets involved in the caution, and then he'll be the 1 lap down and be able to get that lucky dog again.
Pace car off and away. We will see what the number 2 is able to do from the number 1 position. Again, he was technically 3rd in line because the driver in front of him on the inside stepped out. Jorgensen is going to be forced to the outside of the racetrack. American Ethanol, green flag flies. We're back at it. A good jump to the driver on the outside might just put him to the race lead, but the inside is going to fight back. Hanner, though, he'll need to push off the corner if he wants to stay in front.
Yeah, and he's going to get that, but at the same time, the 88 might be able to get it just barely. They're going to go side by side down the back straightaway, and they're 5 abreast. You're also going to see that car in looks like the 4th place position. That looks like the 94 Frank Basilia. He's having a little bit of internet connection, so they're not going to be able to push in the corners or even on the back straightaway hardly at all. And that's going to be only bad news for that outside line, knowing that these two cannot connect and they cannot push. And if they do, it can only mean bad things, and not just for those two, but for everybody. So that's one thing to keep an eye on for those two. Hopefully it gets better for the 94. But for the guys on the inside, they're happy about those two and the problem they're having.
Hanner going to be able to lead that lap once again. Now 17 laps in the works tonight from Talladega. Really not all that far away for the 1/5 portion in this race already. A lot more single file, at least up front, than what we saw on that first run. But again, the 88 lead car on the outside's right there in 3rd, battling for 3rd now. And the 94 not all that far behind, battling for 6th. All it takes is a Rodney Watford or a Derek Walker, the 7 and the 20 respectively, to jump at a line, go topside, and that outside lane is booming. We saw Jorgensen work so effectively to get to the race lead when he was 2nd in line on the bottom. That 2nd car in line on the inside of the racetrack was a very critical spot because the guy in front of you, all he can do is hold the yellow line and hope that you're helping out. At least the leader on the outside can do a little bit of side drafting, pinch down, and try to work for it himself. Really, that 2 at the moment is completely dependent on Derek Walker. So we saw Jorgensen in the position that Walker's in right now earlier, stepped out of line, and essentially creates a vacuum for the race leader, and he has to drop back to traffic. The 7's going to try something here. He'll get the 1 machine to bite. Probably not as effective if they were able to convince Derek Walker to go, but it's going to be enough to at least make it interesting in 3.
Yeah, and we see the 7-1 work together quite a bit. That's Rodney Watford and Chris Passini working together, and we've seen them do that a lot. But look at the block from the Hanner right up here, and the 7 thought making it through right down the middle, trying to thread the needle, but not going to be the case. There was definitely not enough room. Good thing he backed out of that. But the only person that really helps is look at the number 20 of Derek Walker. They basically had a darn tie right there at the start-finish line. You couldn't get any closer than that. Photo finish would have actually had to go to a photo finish and review, but looking at the 20, he's going to lose that momentum he once had, and that 2 is going to go right back down to the bottom to maybe get another push from Derek Walker.
Well, just like that, you got those 2-3 guys to step it along, and now, in fact, inside of the top 9, at least down the backstretch, there were more drivers on the top than the bottom. The 3 machine looks like a Paul Servant, as always, with those Oreo colors on board. Really couldn't decide what lane he wanted to go with. Looked like he was going to go topside, dropped off a little bit. Looks like he'll go back down to the yellow line, maybe work with the 13 of Dominic Dieball to try to move forward. But how about that side-by-side, 4 rows deep across the start-finish line, slight advantage on the inside that time for Mr. Josh Hanner. Rodney Watford, a guy who historically much bigger fan of Daytona than he is of the Talladega Superspeedway, looking like he may go to the point this time down the Alabama gang back straightaway.
Yeah, and it's pretty surprising that these guys are still side by side. Usually it can make it work for a little bit, but perhaps the rubber buildup on the bottom is starting to make it a little slower, starting to have these guys scrub more speed than to have more grip. But also behind them, it's starting to work as well. There's a second pack. You have a little bit of a group of 2. Looks like Dominic Dabal, and then the guys behind him. They looks like they're trying to work out something out as well, trying to gain some momentum. But the side by side, as soon as I said it was starting to pick up, it did go away. But yeah, they're still side by side. There's actually really no resilience with these 8 drivers up here, and they continue to push on the outside and on the inside quite relentlessly.
And nobody's given up. You have to be careful because a lot of the time Sure, an outside lane stays up there. You have a couple of guys. So the 94 took a hit, and he's all kinds of out of shape. He'll hang on. That one kind of strange, going in a straight line. The 88 got into the back of the 94 kind of funky, and that might be what kills some of the momentum off of the guys to the outside. But you don't see what we saw the last 2 laps for much longer than what we saw it for. You don't see these guys stay deadlocked. If you're getting the pass, you've got the momentum to get the job done, or you don't. That opening on the outside now going to be filled by Corey Henry. He'll go top side as the 88 looked like he was trying to get down to the inside. Frank Basilia dropped down to the yellow line. So move the 94 down, push the 12 up. And other than that, we're right back where we started, side by side again.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a switcheroo here as we still have those 4, just in a little bit different order on both sides of the lines. But at the same time, you got to be a little bit worried about that 94 having the connection issues. I bet that was the issue here, and we're going to see that bottom look go up to the top. That's the number 2. He's going to go block the top side, and they want to go around him. You can just see they're taking a small little peek there, as if they were going to go to the outside. You're seeing the 7 still do that, and it seems like they really want to go 3 wide. But whether they have the support or not, I think that's what they're most afraid of, is if they do go to the outside, who's going to help the 7 and the 1, or who's going to help the 2? But both of them have to figure out that, hey, the guys on the bottom are beating us still, so let's just stay in a straight line and then pick that battle up later.
Big push this time down the back straightaway, but again, the issue is he's not going to get there in time. Up the hill they go. And away goes all the momentum. The guys at the front of the field topped up at about 203 miles an hour that time. They sent it off into the quarter. Side by side for a second, it continues as the 7 machine, a lot tighter on the left rear quarter panel. You can see Wofford consistently sticking that nose out, trying to get air to the front bumper of his Chevrolet SS as they move up the racetrack, and he gives some space to the 20, and Hanner's got the job done. Sometimes what you'll see is the 2 will go to the race lead, but he'll wait. He won't cut down, and he'll try to bring the 7 with him. Coop, not the case that time. The second he was clear, he drove it down to the inside, kind of left Wofford out hanging. Good news is the 7 to get a shot at it of his own as he takes over the race lead on the outside line.
Yeah, and the number 1, I don't think will early move away from the 7's rear bumper, just because of the fact, I mean, they just have a mutual trust that they're gonna really fight this thing out. I mean, they're still on the outside. Their battle is lost, and they have to wait until they can get the chance to either get help or go to the bottom, so that way maybe later on in this battle war little statement I'm saying, they can maybe be able to advance their position a little bit later, but that bottom's still pretty stuck too. But they do have Jorgensen behind them, and that 88, he's starting to get that outside line working a little bit as well. And look right there, another driver working up to the top, and oh, looks like he's all the way to the top. He might have a problem if he's going to go out all the way by himself like that.
He does have some damage on that car. Not sure if it was from contact or if he was having a little bit of a netcode problem, but the 28 is going to go up to that 3rd lane and drop back. A smart move, not only for himself, but obviously kind of a considerate move for the guys around him if it is that second of those 2 possibilities that I noted. But he does have some damage. That might be something that hinders him as the night goes on, as he continues to try to drop back and at least not cause any further issues as he now falls outside the top 15.
I cannot believe Chris Piscini saved the car that he was all sorts of sideways, and Mark Jorgensen Jr. was just right behind him, pushing him just a little bit too hard. That's not the first time we've seen that happen with the 88 car before either. It's a little bit of squirreliness, I could say, but those 2 cars are still hooked up and pushing right there on the outside line.
Yeah, the 20 right back up on top of things, and unfortunately for the 7 of Wofford, he never did get his opportunity. The way that outside tends to work is if you do have just the lead car drop down to the inside, the outside loses momentum for a lap or 2 or 3, and then they charge back. The bad news for the 7 was the 12 and the 20 figured that out before he was able to get back up next to them. They jumped up in front of him, and lo and behold, it looks like it may be Derek Walker going to the top spot. It has been quite some time since we've seen Derek Walker put on a solid and dominating performance, if you want to call it that, start to finish in these races. We've seen him up front, but it's been a while as well, I believe, since we've seen him start on pole position. Well, he's doing good right now. He's running up front, and he's doing it with friends up at the front of the field, also working with Hooks, Hanner, Henry, and Piscini. All of those are the dark horse drivers in the field tonight, and it's very easy to spot them amongst the crowd with that bright yellow bar on the top of the race car. 4 of the top 5 are from that team.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive when you can put a team like that together and then actually go out there and perform. That's when you know that you got something going. Seeing those two work together, or all 4 of those guys work together, and you're going to see the 20 of Derek Walker. He then does resume the lead as he was on the pole, and now he's still back there. And in a similar fashion, he's going to probably drive away a little bit. And you're seeing him go to that white dotted line. What he's doing right there is he's kind of moving up the track to give maybe a little bit of a block, but at the same time he's possibly making it so that the inside gets a little bit of breathing room for his engine, because that 2 and some of the guys behind him, they've been pushing this whole time, and they can't push forever. They can only push for so long. So I've been looking at that 7, or not the 7, the 1 of Chris Piscini as well, the 94, the 3. They've only been pushing. They haven't had their fair share of clean air this whole race.
Yeah, I think that you could push all the way around. I just don't think you'd last very long. And we have seen the bumpers be quite sensitive. Again, a couple of seasons ago, this series ran multiple variations of race cars. We had these Cup cars, and we also alternated on a weekly basis between these, the Xfinity cars, and the trucks. And overwhelmingly, on the weeks in which the drivers got to vote on what they would drive, they chose Xfinity or the trucks. They just tend to be a lot easier to push. They're a little bit slower, so you have a little bit more time to react to things, but you just line up a lot better. And you saw it a couple of laps ago when Jorgensen gave a shot to the car in front of him. It might have been Basilia. Got all kinds of out of shape. These things are testy, so when we say pushing, very rarely are these guys actually pushing, locked up on the bumper and going, but staying tight on the bumper as opposed to just giving a shot here and then falling back and giving them another shot, I think, is a much better idea and often, I think, more effective.
Yeah, that's the real phrase of bump drafting, and as opposed to the tandem drafting, which is what you were just describing there. They can't really do that at all. That will burn the engine up in a few laps. But that bump drafting, like you're talking about there, Evan, will give these guys quite the momentum. But when you push, you also lose a lot of momentum yourself. But you're giving the driver in front of you a lot of momentum. So it's kind of one of those deals where you push, and then the draft will bring you back, and you'll keep pushing every time you get up to their bumper. But at the same time, if you're pushing them into another guy, and then into another guy, you're going to be in the guy who's on the wrong end of it, possibly getting a little bit of damage on that front grille, and that's the last thing you want. So you got to be a little bit conservative here in the early runnings, that you don't do that. You don't blow the engine up. You got to be careful with that car, because though you may not damage it, you may ruin it in another way, and that's by blowing the engine.
We are 1/3 distance through tonight's Talladega 250. Your race leader the last time across the start-finish on the 20 at Eric Walker in a highly contested battle with the 12 at Corey Henry. Looks like the 12 may just get there on this time, coming off of quarter number 4, utilizing those 4 stories of banking to his advantage. He'll take the race lead, it looks like, after 31 laps. We'll take this opportunity to step aside for a brief moment. Pit stops not all that far on the horizon if things stay clean and green at the front of the field. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series and iRacing Live. Henry in control. We'll be right back to Talladega in a moment.
So cool, yeah. Nate, what are you working on at the moment?
So I'm working on the animation for the game. We're working on getting pit crews fully developed, and that involves a lot of moving parts. So I'm going in and making sure that each moving part can dovetail smoothly into the next one, so that when you pull in for a pit stop, it looks like the real thing, as opposed to a bunch of jumbled pieces that suddenly stop and then go and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so cool, but why aren't you working on the tire model? Nothing?
Welcome back live to the Talladega Superspeedway. It is now the 7 Rodney Wofford in control. We stepped aside. It was Corey Henry P1. Not a lot has changed. Just a little bit of dancing up inside of the top 5. You see the 12 sitting there just second in line on the inside of the racetrack. 35 laps going to be complete this time by. And so far we've only had that one caution flag so far, which means that this race may just look into green flag mode as we get not all that far away from a possible trip down to the pit lane for green flag pit stops. Is this the longest cycle? Green flag conditions on the night continues on. I want to welcome Rachel Whiteford back topside with us at the LSRTV booth. Rachel, so far things relatively tame tonight from Talladega. We did see that big issue break out in turn number 1 earlier on, but other than that, looks like everybody, for the most part, giving each other room so far.
Yeah, they certainly are, and of course, this track very different to Daytona. Yes, both of them super speedways, both about 2.5 miles in length. But Talladega, you can see here, much wider track, at least 3 marked lanes, but those lanes are very, very big. You can fit 4, 5 cars wide around here, so too wide, not a problem for these guys.
A lot of speeding up and slowing down. We've seen some sustained 2 wide, a couple of rows deep, but there is a lot of checking up towards the front of the field, and obviously that has to come to be expected, more so as you see guys continue to drive a little bit harder and start pushing with each other. But outside of that, the guys do their best to leave some space. That's kind of the dilemma that you're faced with. The tighter you get, the better the draft is. But a little bit more of a dangerous situation you put yourself in. So a lot of cars have been moving up and down the racetrack so far tonight. The guys up inside the top 5, I think, have kind of realized that. Nobody in over their head pushing each other. But again, this race, despite that one yellow, has been very good up front. We're not all that far away. In fact, about 10 laps on the money from the halfway point tonight from Talladega. And really, when we get to there, we'll see if kind of the mindset changes of these guys, and that will give us a good indication of what we'll see going forward into the second half. But at least right now, got about 5-6 drivers that have been up front for the bulk of this thing that just keep trading out laps led.
Yeah, they certainly do, and this is what we'll see all night long here at Talladega, Evan. Of course, this track's so big, but we have got the usual guys towards the front. Bassini at the moment, Jorgensen Jr., Basilla the third. So it's going to be an interesting one, of course. Look who's lurking a little bit back in the pack. Our 22 car, Brandon Chaburko. He is always one to keep your eyes on, and he's lurking, which is unusual.
I'm not
so
sure.
He's got something planned.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we've said his name yet tonight. Outside of the grid, he started 31st on a provisional. So this is, I think he was 7th the last time by. So he may have just lost a position. But 7th, 8th right now where he runs, the highest he's been all night. And we know that he is somebody that absolutely loves to go to the outside lane. And that's not only meaning that second lane, but oftentimes he'll just make a third lane for himself and see if anybody else wants to bite and go with him. Doesn't matter if the 22 starts up front, leads every single lap. Doesn't matter if he doesn't put down a single lap and practice a single lap in qualifying, such as the case was here tonight. In one way or another, the 22 always in the conversation.
Big incident on the racetrack. Well, not a big one, a small one. We just lost the 28 car at the moment. That is Shane McKeechin, who's had an issue coming out of turn number 2 here. And that was him 3 wide there, Evan. We'll get a replay for you. 49 on the high side, 28 in the middle, the 83 on the low side. And what happened? The 49 came down, the 28 ricocheted low off the 83 up into the outside wall. Big jump for Shane McKeechin.
You're not sure if the 49 was trying to go down and pick him up or if he just didn't see him, but there was a hole there for Shane McEachin, and it closed up just as he got the nose in there, and he got pretty hard into the inside fence. So no caution, things are going to stay green up at the front of the field. Thankfully, that one happened a little bit pack to pack, so after he went up into the wall, there wasn't a lot of cars coming through. He's going to limp that number 28, really crab walk it back to the pit lane, and we'll have to see if Shane McEachin still has a quick fix available to be able to get himself back on track. If he hurries up, he might just be able to stay on the lead lap. Your race leader's already back at the other end of the racetrack, I believe, coming out for quarters number 3 and 4, so it does look like they will put McEachin a lap down because he's just now getting to the box.
Yeah, he's at the moment, and this is, oh, big one from the front of the pack there. We had a big one. Yellow flag will fly. 88 car there with an issue, Evan, and that was, he was drafting there with a 94 car. Comes down in the tri-oval. 94 comes up. That was Frank Basillo. The third comes up there into the 88 machine of Martin Jorgensen Jr. Jorgensen Jr. ricochets hard into the outside wall there. Tried to counter steer. You can see the replay. He tries to counter steer, save the slide, and up he goes. Car whips right. Big problems, and a favourite for the race out here on lap 41.
And a 94 didn't push up that much, but he definitely stepped up about that half lane, and Jorgensen was really up there by himself, so he was pinching down, trying to stay in it, and that little bit of contact upset him, and as you said, it was that snap back up the hill that really got him, and he ended up going in the outside fence twice. He came down, got Dominic Dieball. Dieball hit him with the front end. I think luckily for the 13, he's going to be able to get away with relatively little, if any, damage at all, so Dominic Dieball avoiding what could have been a much worse incident. Jorgensen's going to be able to get that car fixed so he can get it back to pit road in time, get a quick fix, and get back out there on track. Lap 41 for this to happen, much better than it to happen at lap number 91, but still a tough break for a driver who was one of those that I was talking about when I was saying that there was about 5 or 6 guys that have been up front all night long. Jorgensen was fitting the bill on that one. So, no green flag pit stops, everybody down under the yellow for just the second time tonight, and leading them down is Chris Bassini.
Listen, he is going to get those cars full, fresh Goodyear tyres and Sunoco race fuel here. Get them back out onto the track. Of course, drivers taking lefts and rights at the moment, it seems. And one in for 4 tyres, and away they'll go.
Looks like Bassini is just going to sneak out in front of Brandon Monsivice. Rodney Wofford will beat him out of pit road. First car off on 4 tires, I think, is going to be the 7. But plenty of drivers didn't think that that amount of service was necessary. Chaburko, Riot going to be the first couple of guys off of pit road. It also looks like Kelly Dahl and Paul Servant did not come down pit road. So that puts that number 3 Chevy, Paul Servant, to the race lead. We saw Rod Flag do this on that first yellow. That one happened much earlier into the run, so we kind of debated if he was going to just come back down to the pit lane after leading the lap and getting the bonus point, or if he was actually going to stay out there. I don't think it's going to be that close of a judgment call on this one for Paul Servant. That was a pretty long run that we're working off of, so I would believe that 3 is to come down this time.
It certainly looks that way. Paul Servant, as you said, did not stop, so he will likely come down. Wants to lead some laps here under caution. 28 car, of course, was one of the ones involved in that earlier incident up on the top of the 49 machine. He's currently running in 2nd place. I believe he has a lap down, so yes, he will have to come in this time by. That's Chaburko heading up towards the front of your field. I don't think he's past Riot yet, so not sure that's his actual position or he's just having fun. But that is Brandon Chaburko to a T. Get this one reshuffled, Evan, of course, and get ready for this green flag here. About halfway through this race now, and this is a tricky time for these guys. We're outside of a window now for green flag pit stops, so going to be very difficult. They're going to have to come down for a green flag stop if we do not get another caution. But if we get another caution after 10 laps, we are good to the end.
Tough break, I believe, for Kelly Dahl, because we noted that it looked like Dahl had stayed out. Well, he didn't pit with everybody else. He had pitted either right before or just after the caution flag came out. It looks like he might have pitted after because he's been dropping back a couple of spots. They're trying to figure out where that 99 Chevy is going to go in line. but I thought that he would have assumed the race lead once we saw that 3 duck down pit road. That's not the case. Jason Altmans has gone to the point. So the top 2 cars at a racetrack, the 51 and the 22, beating out Rodney Watford. Watford, the first car out on 4 tires, beat out the guy who brought us down to the pit lane as the race leader, Piscini, who also took 4 tires and is going to be running in second. Kelly Dahl scored in 5th at the line. Still not entirely sure where he's going to end up. The light's still on top of the pace car, so he's got about a lap and a half to figure out where he'll go in line. It does sound like, though, he may have to drop all the way to the back to serve some sort of a penalty for maybe pitting when the lights came on just at that last second as he was coming down.
Yeah, it looks like it could be that way. We'll have to see how the stewards will call this one at the moment, but this restart's going to be a tricky one, of course. And look who's way at the front now, Brandon Chuburka. We hadn't mentioned him yet so far in the race, but he's here now. This is the sort of driver you do not want to let get that close to the front as a freebie, and this has been just that. He's had a freebie pass to the front. He was running in the bottom of our top 10 for most of this one. He's now second place, going to be restarting on the outside line on the front row. Perfect place for him to get a good run. Who's going to be behind him? The number 1 of Chris Piscini. That is dangerous territory.
Couple of other guys who have been working their way forward. Some of these other teams, the Wood Wrench guys, have been doing very good tonight. Dominic Dieball, Brandon Monsivice, as well, have been getting the job done. And Joel Wood, who right now is running back at about 16th position. The biggest mover, though, are the guys 1-2, actually tied at the moment. For the most positions gained at about 30, I think, really on the dot, because you got Jason Altmans, who started 30th and runs in 1st, and Brandon Chuburka started 1 spot behind him in 31st, and runs 1 spot right behind him in the number 2 position. So that goes to saying that, again, just because we didn't talk about these guys a lot in those opening couple of laps, Altmans is a guy who we expect to be up here and in these battles on a consistent basis. Same thing with Chuburko, and I think it was about 2 seasons ago, we got a lot of new drivers, and the big topic of conversation kind of at this point in the season, second race on the year and such, was, how the rookies were going to pan out. Well, a lot of those rookies have really just turned into series regulars, but that core group of guys that go way back to the Superspeedway.com racing series days in this championship. I'm talking, way back to seasons 3 and 4, names like Andrew Berger and company, or even the ISS days. Those are the guys who are consistently so good, Rachel. But the good thing about this series is the core group of drivers, it's not just 6 or 7 or 8. I mean, it's 15, 16, 17 guys who could win on any given night.
It certainly is. And with this being Super Speedway racing, Gavin, anybody can win on any given night, regardless, well, depending on what happens, of course. And those 16 and 17 guys, although I'd say it's more like 25 guys now, can really have a chance every week. And it is an absolute shot in the dark as to who will have the opportunity. We have favourites, of course, guys that we see up there all the time. But anybody in this field has the chance. Anybody in this field has the potential to win. These guys are some of the best Super Speedway racers we see. And they put on a stage show every single week.
We've seen some of these guys also pop up in some other series here on iRacing, and a lot of the time, and I think unjustly so, a lot of guys aren't big fans. Guys who race in some of the other series don't really look at the guys who race on Friday nights as that serious of contenders. We've seen Super Speedway guys not only go into other big-time LSRTV broadcasted leagues and perform on a weekly basis, but then come to the plate tracks and then just absolutely dominate. So it's kind of a fun dynamic to watch play out over the course of the week. The lights finally go off on top of the pace car. We will restart with 45 laps down, and I believe 49 laps to go, so just shy of that halfway point. Just a little bit off of the restart. We'll then take a look at our iRacing midway race break, work you through the first half of the race, and count you down into the second half. But as we get set for this restart, it is going to be Altmans on the front row and Brandon Chuburko, the 2 drivers who started outside the top 30, driving in front of the guys on row 2, Rodney Watford and Chris Piscini, who both started inside the top 10. Quite a different dynamic.
It certainly is. And we're going to get ready for that restart now. This time by safety car will take that long left-hand turn onto pit road. These guys will go racing again. Of course, very late restart zone here, Evan. That's a tricky one for these guys, but they are used to it. It always catches people out, that not being in the middle of the tri-oval, but we'll see what happens here. Chuburko has Piscini behind him. That will be important, I think, for the start of this one. The 7 of Rodney Watford behind Jay Riot. Behind him, the 54 car of Brandon Cruz Monsalvis. and we have Derek Walker there on the outside behind Bassini. That's a potent top 6.
Despite the fact that we've seen a couple of issues here and there, again, that was really, I believe, only second yellow we've seen on tonight. This restart will come with still 30 of the 33 original starters in tonight's race on the lead lap. We still have 32 of those 33 on track. Only driver behind the wall is Dwayne Cooper in the double O, who's going to have to take a double 3 tonight and finish in 33rd. The pace car is off and away, though, 45 laps down from Lincoln, Alabama. They'll come across the start-finish line. Green flag flaws are back underway. Second time in a row, the outside bites first, but the inside should be able to power back on the bottom in the corner.
Yeah, that will be the opportunity here in the first section of the track, Kevin. These low side will have a shorter run around the corner. They will get a natural advantage onto the backstretch, but a big run on the outside by the outside line if they can hold it there. At the moment, it's only the 20 car, the 1 and the 22 holding the outside line. The 12 will come up of Corey Henry. Not as hooked up on the outside as they need to be. The bottom side much better there. And back goes the top line. Just can't keep that momentum going against... Oh, big contact!
Oh, the one!
The one!
Caution is gonna fly, and there's the big contact. Big problems in 3 and 4.
Oh, huge problems. Replay going to come up for you now. We'll show you what's just happened here. But the one car there gets a tap on the back. I believe he taps the back of the 22 car. Back and goes around, gets into the low side cars. 54.
Well, you bumper hook
Up
on
he
it.
goes. And down into the back of the pack. And oh, Jorgensen Jr. hits again. That's him out of this race. Now he's had his 2. Jorgensen Jr.
I thought he was going to get away with it, too, because he was up against the fence and he was slotting it, especially when you're going backwards, though. There's really no way he can keep that car in the wall, and the guys behind them, the problem was, I think if they stayed too odd, Rachel, they were going to be okay and going to be able to get on by. The issue is they see a car spinning, everybody wants to take their own course of action because everybody thinks that they know the best way to get by it, and they had actually started wrecking before they even got there. Andy Kessler got on the brakes and got hit by the 3, and they were 4 wide coming in there, and that's why the track just got blocked, and that was big junk. Second time tonight, Kessler's been involved. You noted Jorgensen as well involved in that one. Heavy damage on Shane McKeechin, on Larry Camp. So the big one strikes basically right at the halfway point in this race. That was a mess off and 4.
I'm just watching this back here, Evan, with what happened with the 1 of Chris Bassini to start this crash, and would you believe it's aero loose from what I'm seeing here? Running behind the 22, no contact made there with the car of Chaburko. The back end of the 1 just steps out, and round he goes, gets loose, goes down into 54, hits the back of 54, hits the 94, comes up, gets tapped by the 20, big damage to him, but they mostly get through. The 12 very lucky, using the 20 as a snowplow. The 1's backwards up high on the wall, nothing he can do to hold that car there once he's spinning, coming down that steep banking. Big contact with the 1989, sorry, and that catches in 4, 5, 6 cars at the back, and a terrible one. But this is something we don't often talk about, but aero loose, when you're running in 2 wide lanes, it can be a major problem, especially when you get a car behind you on the low side. Slightly bigger gap between the car, between him and the one in front, and that bumper on your rear quarter panel can just suck the air off the car, make you really, really loose. That's what happened to Bassini, the number 1. Back end just had no traction suddenly, and it stepped out in the corners. That was a disaster waiting to happen, and frankly, nothing he could do.
So this caution flag coming very quickly off of the last one means that the guys up front really had no intentions of coming down to the pit lane. So Jason Altmans is going to maintain the top spot behind the wheel of the number 51 Ford. We will take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and more. The number 51 leads the way. He started, as we've noted, back in 30th position. He's P1 at the moment. Rodney Wofford was able to pick up a spot on that last run. He started 4th and runs in 2nd at the moment, but 2 other big movers, Brandon Chaburko from 31st to 3rd, and Brandon Cruz-Monsivais from 24th to 4th. Your pole sitter sitting just 1 spot back, Derek Walker right now in the number 5 position. Corey Henry runs 6th spot with 7th place. Dominic Dyball just behind him. Greg Hook's another guy who's picked up in bulk. He's about plus 14 or so. He's at 18th. He's in 8th at the moment. Behind him at 9th is Josh Vickery, and Glenn Hedrick rounds out our top 10.
Certainly does. And running it back in 11th place is Andrew Berger. Back in 12th, Ramon Evans. Dan Harrington in 13th, Garrett Attaway, Scott Saunders, your top 15 there. Roger Stewart, Josh Hanna, Kelly Dahl, Joel Wood, and Scott Warren in 20th.
21st position at the moment, Mr. Larry Camp. You also got Gary Champion, 22nd. 23rd is now actually Gary Champion going to drop a couple of spots, so to mix things up, Servant going to go 21, Kessler 22, and Larry Camp 23rd. Gary Champion came down pit road. He'll drop to 24th. Ron Flag is 25th. Frank Basilia is 26th. He's the final driver on the lead lap. First driver 1 lap down, and in a possible wave around position for the next yellow is going to be Matt Quicken 27th. Ray Rittenauer 28th. Chris Bassini 29th. Shane McEachin is 30th. And the final 3 cars to round out the field tonight, 31st, 32nd, and 33rd. Jorgensen and Holloway still on track, and as we've noted, Dwayne Cooper behind the fence. His night gets a little bit of an early end. This has been a look at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com and sign up today. Take a look. The lights should go out on top of the pace car the next time by, so we no longer count up. We begin to count down towards the end of tonight's race tonight from Talladega. Do want to give a big call to Casey Malone, the sponsor on tonight's race, for making things possible here tonight. I just want to give a shout out to him for being the individual race sponsor for tonight's festivities. So we are going to get set to get this thing back under green flag conditions in just a moment. The stats say that if we're going to get a green flag run in this race, and a green flag run meaning to the point of green flag pit stops, it would happen at this midway break. I think that not this most recent yellow racer, but the one before that came maybe about 5 to 10 laps before we would have seen that service. I think that took away our hopes tonight of seeing green flag service. I think that there's not enough time in this race for that to be a realistic option, because as the trends tend to show, late in these races, inside of 20 to go, very rarely do we get through that portion of the race without problems, and we'd have to get deep into that run to see guys come down pit road on a green flag.
Yes, certainly, Evan, of course. And once we get yellows, as Darryl Waltrip likes to say, cautions breed cautions. We get a couple of those going, and it just starts to pile up. The cars get bunched back together, of course. People on slightly different tyres, slightly different fuel, and it just changes everything. Everyone's concentration drops a notch, and we just start to see it happen over and over and over again. Right now, let's hope 2 is enough for these guys, and they're going to be a little bit more patient off this start, but after one caution, you tend to get a second fairly quickly, then a good gap after the second one. So let's hope this follows trends and we get a quiet patch.
We will see if the inside really gets going. I think the first 2 restarts on the night, the inside had pulled what was maybe 3 or 4 car lengths. Not necessarily the case the last couple of times. In fact, the outside has won the jump to the line. As we've noted, and you know, for those who tune in on a regular basis that are familiar with Superspeedway racing, you know that the inside, the place to be, at least in 1 and 2, getting up through the gears, shorter way around without the draft being a factor. So we'll see if Watford can do something. We'll see if Voltmans is going to be able to pull up at the inside. The 51's going to be working with the 22, and it looks like that 7's going to be working with the 54.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way based on what we know from the teams in this one, of course. Losing Bassini is a big hit, though, for the 22 car. Those two have worked together in the past. I'll have to see what will come of this one. But there's a distinct lack of DHI cars. The 7 and the 12, though, are teammates, as is the 15 behind them, so we'll have to see if they can get hooked up. That will be a potent combination.
Pace car going to make that sharp left-hand dive off once again. Field going to have to wait back just a little bit longer as they cycle through the tri-oval past where the start-finish line will be at Daytona and head off to the flag stand here from Talladega. Green flag flies are back underway. 50 laps complete tonight from Talladega and 44 to go.
Big layback by the 21 car there on that restart. Glenn Hedrick there, Evan, was really hung back on the restart, like 2 car lengths between him and the 12. And look at the run, he got right up to back to a big hit to the 12, which will push him up towards the 54, and hopefully him into the 7. That's the kind of jackhammer start they needed, but a huge layup for the 21 car.
Yeah, doing exactly, I think, what the objective is for some of these guys as Hedrick tries to get things sorted out on the outside of the racetrack and try to help these guys along. The outside, 4 cars strong, but about a half a car length back. Inside should be able to defend the position, and we really haven't seen a lot of protecting going on the front lane as far as guys going from the bottom of the racetrack and jumping up top, trying to kind of stall out the momentum of the guys on the outside. We really haven't seen a lot of that tonight. I think we're progressively seeing less and less of that. It's effective, but it's extremely difficult to be really good at. And I think that these guys starting to realize maybe the risk versus reward in that kind of an exchange may not necessarily be worth it. You saw the 51, he thought about it that time, does not go for it, and Wofford pulls up to his passenger door.
He does indeed. That top side starting to get better form right now with the 54 of Brandon Cruz Monsalves, the 12 of Corey Henry, and back there the 21 of Glenn Hedrick getting formed behind that train, led by Rodney Wofford here. Wofford getting a good run here on the outside of Chaburko, side-sucking on those two cars in the bottom lane, doing what he can to move forwards here, getting just up alongside Jay Riot's 51 car's rear quarter panel there. Not going to hold that one, the gap too big, back 54 behind him. Bit of protecting going on, like I mentioned, with the 51 coming up now to cover that top lane, drops back in front of Chaburko on the low side. Chaburko's car looking like a definite threat down there. He's stalking and waiting as the outside lane gets the start of a run here. Can they hold this one around the outside of 3 and 4? This will be tricky if they can, but a big run will be had if they can manage that one alongside them through the corner here, Evan. Very, very good run there by the outside lane, getting really, really hooked together, and that's important.
They got to knock out a couple of corners solid in a row. You saw the 51 sneak up top the tump before trying to slow him down. It looked like it worked out relatively good because, again, the outside's momentum comes in waves. And if you get the big run down the back straightaway, you got to get clear by about half to 3/4 of the way down, quick enough to be able to get in line. Because the problem is, again, they send it off to the corner, they go up the hill, they lose the momentum, and now you see pretty good amount of space between the 7 and the 54, and really tight pinching down that time off of the corner was Monsivice trying to compensate so he can get back up to the bumper. So next lap or so going to be a wash as they try to get some momentum built back up again. Sometimes where they sit right now, Rachel, might not be good. The 7 right there on the car in second, oftentimes they can get stuck there. A lot of the times, the best runs from the guys at the outside originate from 3-4 car lengths back as they get that big head of steam and they execute it on the first shot.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Evan, and they need to make sure they get this one hooked up together, and that is it. Setting up the run is a big part of it. It's not just getting those 3 or 4 cars together on the top side. That's just going to make you as fast as the low. So what you need to get past, that is momentum. And that involves getting those cars moving, getting a pair, catching a pair from further back, and getting together. That then gives you a good shove forwards on the aero of these cars, and that gets you moving past the leader. That's what you really need. You need to get a run going to get past on the top side. Just getting grouped up, that is not enough. That allows you to stay with them. But passing, that's tricky. Oh, it's Chaburko comes up very, very close to the 7 of Wofford there. Nearly turning himself on the front bumper there of Wofford, but Chaburko on the offensive here.
I'm not sure if Brandon Chaburko has ever made a move in his life that involved a car length or more of space. He always tends to cut it close, and right there. No intentions of bringing the 7 with him. We'll see if Watford can squeeze into that hole, and he'll try, but he's not going to have enough space. Some guys, Rachel, would have waited, brought the 7 with him, and then both gone down when he was clear. Not necessarily the MO of the driver of the 22.
Yeah, let's just say most drivers would have that, I'm going to make some friends in the early part of this race, and I will bring the guy pushing me with me because I don't want to break any friendships. You'd break friendships at the end of the race. Everyone expects that. But Chaburko, he has no friends. He's going for it wherever and whenever he can gain the opportunity. As the 57 gets on the apron, he has to slow down and drops back to the inside there. He'll fall back. That was the 57 car, I believe, looking at the numbers. He's dropped all the way back, but yeah, Chaburko though at the front. That was dicey. It was a very aggressive move he made, and he's got himself at the front here, and the whole real outside line has kind of collapsed there, so he's secured himself a spot. But oh, this could actually get him working. 4 hooked up versus 2. DHI all hooked up together. Teamwork in progress. Goodbye Chaburko. Goodbye Riot. Nothing you can do against 4 cars versus 2 here. And that's what you do for dumping Wofford, Chaburko.
Yeah, the driver that he left behind just cut him off and now is able to get in front of him. The 22 looking high and just as quick. Now he'll try to fake back to the bottom, and Wofford shuts the door not once but twice. Looked like the 22 had it beautifully executed to slide up to the nose of the 15. And I think the 7 had kind of accepted that that was the case. He didn't follow him all the way up, and because of that, when Chaburko made the move back down to the inside, the 7 was essentially already blocking that spot. I think if the 22 just committed to the top, he might have been able to get up there.
Yeah, this is one of those reasons why we have the saying sometimes of never go full Chaburko, because that's what happens when you go full Chaburko. And it was very nearly a huge incident there at the front of the race, but Brandon Chaburko is definitely one of the most entertaining drivers in this series. He has a little bit of flair, a little bit of risk-taking, and that was a key exhibition of just that. We're 3 wide, we're going up and down the track, and, well, everyone just about survived.
So far, at least, to this point, you see the 20 and the 12 kind of working with each other on the outside of the racetrack, trying to get back up to the 7. There have been some cases in this series where we see team cars lead the inside and lead the outside, and in fact, they could essentially just hold everything still and create a stalemate up front. Not sure if that's going to be the strategy of these guys. They've been working very well under their current strategy, which is essentially just to continue to work together, not really logjam things. You see the 12 drops down in line, but Corey Henry goes right back up there to work with his teammate as they try to do something on the outside of the racetrack. If they were to drop in line single file, though, I really wouldn't be surprised. The rest of the top 10 are.
Yeah, certainly, and that's what they want to do again. We saw that DHI hookup out there. Those cars are still out the front, so plenty of opportunity for that to happen again. And they're all going to be a little gun-shy about that 22 Motorcraft Ford Fusion, and with good reason.
Chaburko always likes to play these games. Everybody else was single file. He says, sure, I'll jump up and add a line. And he's kind of using the 7's teammates against him now, as they're the one giving Chaburko the shove. Down the Alabama gang back straight away, and he tried to cut it, and that one bit him. He would have been clear if he just stayed topside a little bit longer, but he tried to make that move to the inside in typical dramatic fashion. It didn't work, and thankfully, he noticed that before committing.
Yeah, very close, but this is it. He's the joker in the pack here in the Superspeedway Cup Series 7, and, well, that joker provides us some great viewing for you at home, and, yeah, we'll stop talking about the 22 car for once, because it seems to be all that's on our minds as the 20 shoves him to the front again. Probably the safest place for the 22 is at the front, but DHI hooking up, that's another possibility. We've got the 4 in the middle of them there, and it's the driver of Garrett Atwell. He's up and involved in this one. Also got the 24 car moving up there as well. Andrew Berger. No, that's not Jeff Gordon. It's Andrew Berger. He's getting up here as well. As Chaburko goes down to the bottom again, dumping the 20. That's somebody else who's going to burn as that outside line stays hooked up a bit better now. All the DHI cars, expect if they can get through, expect that 7 to pull up and join them.
If only the 22 wasn't there, they'd be tailor-made inside and outside. The good news for them is they're going to be able to get something going topside this time. Kind of lost a little bit of speed into the tri-oval, though, so the 20 dives down to the bottom, and now the 12 all by himself. But this is a good position for them. Walker on the inside, the 12 with Corey Henry on the outside of the racetrack, and the 7 right there. Brandon Chaburko is going to be the thorn in their side for the rest of this race. The 22 slides topside. The 20 in front of him acknowledges, goes up to block, but eventually concedes, goes down, protects the inside line. And once again, Brandon Chaburko going to get the push, courtesy of the teammate that the guy he's racing against for the race lead. Wasn't enough that time, though.
You can just imagine inside the race helmet in that 22 car, there is a massive, massive grin on his face. Because he is enjoying playing with these DHI boys. He's enjoying being the fox amongst the pigeons right here. And it is great to watch this sort of racing. We are seeing dicing and slicing and a chess game here at 200 miles an hour here at Talladega Superspeedway. This is what we want to watch.
22 and the 12 now on the outside. Remember when we came back about 1/3 of the way into this race and we said that there was about 5-6 guys who have been all over this race? Well, it's kind of a new group. Look at the inside of the racetrack now. Chaburko in the 22 forces the 7 out of the way. Yeah, Chaburko's one of the new guys. Hard contact. He'll slide in the center of the corner. 4 wide, and they're going to run out of room.
Big crash there. That is the big one for tonight's motor race, Evan. That was huge, and that was started by Chaburko getting into the back there of the 20 car. We'll have a look at this one and see exactly what happens again. But Chaburko tags him, goes to the apron, tags the 51, pushes him up the track, hits the 12. 4 goes up, gets down, the 51 hits him, the 51 goes up the track, and then we have the big junk. And guess who escaped? The 22.
Tends to be the way these things work. Somebody initiates contact, and that's the guy that drives on away. Brandon Chaburko very intently gave a shot to the back of the 20, and well, the 20 was able to hang on. Chaburko with a big slide hung on to it. They just ran out of room behind, and the 51, the 12. Huge hit for the 15, who was up and into the catch fence. The 49, the 2, the 97, the 22, who escaped more or less, but did get some damage and all of that. That's the second time tonight that I think we can really say we've seen some big junk, Rachel, and it's happened in turn 4 again.
I would say that is the trickier end of this racetrack, Evan. Of course, these guys have built up a full head of speed on the backstretch, and it's a trickier end. It's a different entrance to the corner, of course. The entrance to 1 and 2 is a wider entrance thanks to that tri-oval. It's a narrower entrance here into 3. That makes it a slightly trickier corner. The car's a little bit more unsettled going into 3. So you reach the mid-part of that corner, it's not quite as balanced as it is in the middle of 1 and 2. So that makes that corner definitely our danger zone of this circuit.
Race leader is going to be back down pit road for, I believe, if we stay green from this point on, what can be the final trip down to the pit lane. We've seen a couple of trips down in which guys have decided to take tires and fuel, and we've also seen trips earlier on where that was not a decision. How important are the tires versus the track position? With a restart, that'll be about 28 or 27 laps to go by the time we get things back away. The 20 into the box, going to go left side tires, top it off in gas, and away, quick stop for Derek Walker.
Most of the cars down, out, and away here. And we'll see if the DHI cars can get out as well. We've seen the 22 leaves pit road with the 13 alongside him. That is, of course, the car there of Dominic Diebold. Ahead of him is Brandon Cruz-Monsalves gotten out. The 21 of Hedrick, Wofford in the 7, and 20 of Derek Walker. That is quite a star-studded top 5 we've got here, Evan, for this restart on lap 65. It's definitely going to get interesting here.
So we gear up for what is going to be just a little bit under of a 30-lap to go shootout to the end of this race, and as we pace around the Talladega Superspeedway and clean some of the carnage up off of the turn 4 exit here in Lincoln, Alabama, we'll take this opportunity, have a yellow flag of our own. We'll step aside and we'll go LSRTV nonstop so you don't miss a moment of the action. Back in just a few, you're watching the Superspeedway Cup Series on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
So obviously you guys have come from the virtual world to reality. What do you think about a sim racer coming in the real world? What were your expectations coming in?
Coming from iRacing, a computer program basically down here to a real world scenario where you got all these guys with all these years and years and years and years of experience that are also using iRacing as a tool to come out and run against those guys and beat them and finish ahead of them and show them, there's a thing or two you might be missing is fantastic. That's a skill that I know I don't have, and I can appreciate it because I'm terrible at iRacing.
Glenn was able to come into the team. We did a lot of preseason testing, actually a full season's worth of testing before we even started the season. And he came in, there was a lot of sectors that he was the fastest guy out of our team. And Sparky and I are looking at data, trying to catch up to him through some turns. And of course, some places Sparky will be the fastest or I'll be the fastest, and Glenn is able to learn from, what we're doing and vice versa. So it was excellent to see his pace right off of the bat, and speed was never a worry. It's about qualifying well. Qualifying is very difficult, and pretty important in this series. And so is, being able to make effective passes without contact. It's very difficult to pass in these cars, so it's not easy being here.
I think the level of ultra competitiveness in here, where when normally when you make a pass, you're making a pass with 2 cars involved. But if we're making a pass in this series, you have to remember there's 5 cars waiting behind you. If you mess up that pass, they're going by you.
Yeah, it's like sharks.
Yeah, you're surrounded by sharks. But no, it's been I've been very surprised and very pleased with it. And obviously I have the 2 champions I'm sitting between. John actually statistically is the most successful MX-5 Cup driver in the world. He owns every record that you would want, none of the bad records.
Maybe some of them, I don't know.
Maybe some of those. And Sparky's one of the quickest guys in the paddock, and obviously the champion now. So I couldn't have picked a better team to be with 6 Sideways. I'm looking at what everybody in the paddock calls gold. I mean, they will pay to look at John and Sparky's data, and I get full access to it. And I get to see where I'm doing well and see where I can improve. And I've been really pleased with my progress.
Back live tonight from the Talladega Superspeedway. Lights just now off on top of the iRacing.com Ford Mustang GT pace car. We get set for what could be the last restart on the night. It'll be 67 laps complete, and it'll be a restart with about 27 to go tonight in this, the second race on the Season 14 Superspeedway Cup Series campaign. As always, we're happy to be with you tonight on LSRTV and iRacing Live. Evan Pasoko, Rachel White for topside with you. Cisco Scarmuza downstairs pushing the buttons and bringing us to you this evening. Again, the way that this championship works is we really just tonight begin to embark onto the bulk of the regular season, is that it is a 14-race regular season with 3 drop weeks. So 11 races are going to count towards the chase qualifications, and you win, and you're in. Mark Jorgensen Jr. so far the only driver to punch his ticket. We'll see if somebody else is able to do it here tonight.
We certainly will, and the way it's looking, it's going to be someone new with all the big names we've lost so far in this one. The likes of Mark Jorgensen Jr., Shane McEachin, Chris Bassini, Josh Hanna, Rod Flagg, and of course the likes of Corey Henry are out of this one, really. Some of them still running, but not very well. It's going to be a tricky one, and we've got a lot of guys laps down here. Some big names out, as we mentioned. We've had 2 big ones. In fact, one of them, Evan, was huge.
Yeah, and we've seen 2 of them that fit that bill. So we'll see if these guys are able to figure these things out as the night goes on. Typically, the good news is if at least you get the big one, you tend to simmer the field down just a little bit. There are still 22 cars on the lead lap. There is plenty that is undecided tonight in this race. They come out of the tri-oval. They will cross underneath the flag stand. Green flag flies once again. The top side off and away, and a good enough run. He might just get clear. Watford open to the inside if he decides to go down, but he doesn't.
He does not. He stays up there and lets the 20 car get a run. Of course, that is a teammate car. 21 car behind them of Glenn Hedrick. Branch Burko behind him. On the high side, it's a 7 of Watford, the 54 car of Monsalves, and the 13 car of Dominic Dyball up there. Getting a good run here. The 7 pushing hard. The 20 car easing off a little bit. Going to let his teammate get down in front of him, we think, here. And he does just that. Teamwork is kind of easy to read with these guys. They do help each other out. And they want to set that 2-car tandem up there with the 20 and the 7. Get themselves hooked up and try and control this race, Evan.
So far, they've been doing a pretty good job at it. I wouldn't say that they've been dominating, but they definitely have been at a comfortable position. Anytime that you can keep 3 of your teams consistently, inside of the top 5, the top 10, is a pretty good night at these plate tracks. I know that we continue to say over and over and over how unpredictable these races are. Sure, that's true on Monday night and Tuesday night and Thursday and Saturday, but on Fridays, got to come out here and perform every single week, so sooner or later, you're going to catch on how to do these things once or twice around the moon, and, well, they figured it out right now. The 7, the 20, 1-2 at the moment. They've got Hedrick and the 22 of Traburco in line behind him. Again, the 22 looked like he got some fair amount of damage in that last accident, but he's looking pretty good. Issues with Andy Kessler. Kessler, who was running in 8th position, had been in 2 incidents already tonight. He got himself down on the apron, but was able to get out of there before that thing went around.
You got a big tag there by the 76 of Scott Warren as he got that car on the apron. Of course, he got those 2 wheels down there. Right the 15 here towards the on the track here, of course, Evan, but that was close, of course. He got tagged by the 79, and it was very, very close for a second, but they all got collected up, and it was okay. Big breakaway, though, at the front. Is 3 wide back in the pack here. Right at the back, 3 wide running down here. Around the likes of Larry Camp, Frank Basili III, Ramon Evans, Roger Stewart, Andrew Berger, Jay Riot. And it's still pretty hectic, and this isn't even your lead group here.
Yeah, single file line. First time we've seen that, and we always talk about how ironic it is that we'll go laps 1 through 72, 3 wide action, and then there's kind of limbo. Just outside of 10 to go, not quite at 5 to go, where nobody wants to make a move, because if you make a move and it doesn't work out at lap 6, you've got plenty of time to do it. If you jump at a line at lap 76 and it doesn't work out, you can drop from, 6th position way back to at the end of this single file line, back to 19th, and that basically eliminates your hopes of trying to win this race. So the top 14 right now are in that big single file line on the inside down the back. Only 2 cars even on the outside on that secondary pack.
Oh, 24 got the apron there. He's lost some speed. Going to drop back here. The bottom line going to have to check up behind him. Guys jumping out to get round this run here as they go 3 wide, a little bit further back into the car, and the apron up ahead of them. That's a 54 car. Bit of a check up in the mid-pack, and in the tri-oval, everyone getting on the apron slightly. Going to form a third line here, and a big run for the outside line, led by that 83 car of Ramon Evans. There's 4, nearly 4 wide there, and going... This is what happens when a guy gets checked up, a guy gets on the apron of, and he gets a little bit slowed down, has to control that car, and everyone panics and tries to find an open lane here. As Talladega, you can do that here.
Yeah, and luckily they had that little bit of extra real estate to work with. And again, just like that, you go from single file inside of the top 14 to 4 wide, just about a second off at the top spot. How about that 83, though, of Ramon Evans on the move on the outside of the racetrack, powering to the outside, the driver with only 1 career win in the Superspeedway Cup Series. It came right here from Talladega back, I believe, in April of 2013. And he's in a great spot now, and he's got a great car pushing him with a 51 tucked up against the bumper.
Certainly is, and this is what we talked about, a big run. He had that momentum caused earlier on, and once he got that momentum, when cars got behind him with that push, it was really strong, and those cars went straight to the front. Here he is, pulling up alongside Rodney Wofford, the 7 in the lead here. 2 wide for the lead of this race, 2 wide, 4 deep here for the front of this motor race. 83 in the 7, the 51 in the 20, the 22 in the 21, the 18-9 and the 3. 22 nearly getting up into the back quarter there with the 22 car as they come out of 4, heading towards tri-oval here. This 22 will dive down to the bottom line, drops the 2 at the front. That's going to kill the run there of the 83 and the 51 cars. As the 20 and the 22 go to push the 7, try and secure this move, try and block off that run in the outside lane. They're doing just that. The 7's coming back here of Wofford. What was a huge run is dropping back to 51, drops him as well. He's not going to play this game. The 83's chances, well, they've just gone flatline, Evan.
Yeah, that's basically like throwing the anchor out the window and dropping it back. Good news is there's help on the way. The 21 is already to the back bumper. That's Glenn Hedrick, and he's got plenty of friends. How about the 89 of Matt Quick? Quick was outside the top 12 maybe 2-3 laps ago. He tries to peek it out inside at the top 10, but the 21 as well also decides to go down to the bottom. Doesn't look like a lot of guys want to commit to the outside. Again, we're in that weird part of the race. This time by 20 laps to go tonight from Talladega. Everybody trying to get themselves set up for what they think will be the right move come maybe 10 or 5 to go.
Things getting very sketchy up here as we're getting into the latter part of this race. Looking at about 20 to go here, and it's getting quite shaky as cars go up and down, moving around on this track. Nearly hooked there. The 21 car tried to come back down again, nearly hooked to 3. And that could have been a big disaster there as it's 3 wide. The outside lane, 89 going for a run on his own. 83 there. Oh, people pulling up, people pulling down again. No one's quite sure they want to go. As behind them there, the 94 car gets very shaky here. 3 wide behind him as well. 87 gets squeezed to the high side here. This is definitely getting chaotic.
Yeah, 2 cars now on that third most lane. The 89, who has only been going forwards, is just trying to be up there as a last resort, and I really don't think that's going to work for him. He'll probably drop out and behind the number 24 if the 24 is able to get by on the inside, and it does look like he will. So that'll kick the 89 of Matt Quick back to about 16th or 17th position, but we went real quick from single file to a lot of 2 wide. Meanwhile, for the race lead, Wofford tries to pull the move that Chaburko tried to pull on him about 15 laps prior. Fake high, go low, and Altmans was all over that one. Shut the door.
He certainly did there as 51 of Riot gets the lead off Wofford. 22 to the high side. 21's moving around a lot here, Evan. That 21 car there of Glenn Hedrick, he is not keeping that car very stable. It's really moving on him. Quite difficult to handle. Big run coming behind Chaburko, though. The 83 and the 54 car with the 13. They're going to give Chaburko a big shove here, and look how fast this group goes as soon as they hook up. And they're going to go skyrocketing forwards. This is what Chaburko needs. He could get a good run here on the backstretch, moving further forwards. If they could stay hooked up, they're not going to be able to do that here on the backstretch. On that back super stretch here at Talladega Superspeedway. Not going to hold that run. Riot and Wofford will hold the inside line with Walker. They'll have another chance coming out of 4.
Looks like these guys kind of want to skip the 20 to 10 to go portion of this race and just get right into the nitty-gritty of it. If they keep going at it like this, I'm not sure we'll make it with the checkered flag with everybody still in one piece. A lot of guys starting to pinch down. That's really one of the biggest things that you notice as these races go late into the night and get down to the end of them is there's not a lot of space being given. So when you have that little bit of a bobble, there's a guy right there on your right-hand side. You hook him, you're in the fence, and it can quickly turn into some big junk. There's a big run this time off for quarter number 2 for the 7 Randy Watford, but no help on the bumper. Means he's not getting too far.
It certainly does not, but look at this. We're 2 wide, about 7 deep here, Evan. This is the whole top 15 in a pack racing here at Talladega. This is what we love to watch. These laps are winding down now. We're coming to about 16 to go here, heading towards that 15 to go mark. And it is definitely on here at Talladega. These guys are not going to give quarter. This is time to race. And we're going to see a lot 2 wide, possibly 3 wide action here. Guys looking and making a hole for themselves. This one will spread and people are going to start pulling in front of each other. We are going to have one big one before the end of this race. Mark my words.
And that would be the 2nd or 3rd on the night if that does end up happening. Again, this lead pack is completely nuts at the moment. 20 cars in total, spanning about 1.9 seconds of separation, but the top 15 are 2 wide within just 0.6 of a second. Lap traffic coming on the outside of the racetrack. That 3rd lane makes a smart move back into pack around that 24 of Andrew Berger to get back down on that middle lane. That is, give enough space for the lap traffic to be able to work on by. It doesn't cause any further issue, and these guys I don't think are going to have to deal with much more lap traffic on tonight. Maybe they'll catch up to Andy Kessler, who's quite a ways down the road on the back straightaway now with some damage, but other than that, it should be smooth sailing for the guys up at the front of the field. So now all of a sudden, after trading out the race lead almost every other lap all night long, 5th one of Jason Altman's has been leading the bottom for quite some time, and the 7 of Rodney Watford's been leading the top for quite some time. I wouldn't be surprised if that 7 gets a good run into and decides not to go down to the inside, because if you go down to the bottom of the racetrack, you're just kind of waiting for somebody else to come back up top and pass you. So maybe that 7 wants to sit next to the 5th of Altman's, sit side by side, and just kind of wait to make a late move.
Certainly is, and Altman's out at front. He's going to be in a good position here for this one, but Watford getting a good run on the outside. Can he pull this one down? Not going to be clear in time, but look at who's behind Watford. It's that 22 car again. It's a potent outside lane we've got going here. The 83, he is still involved with this one. Evans has been strong tonight, and something he's not had in quite a while, so we'll look forward to see what he can do. He could get desperate here towards the end and make something happen. The sight of a chance at the win will do a lot of things to a racing driver, and we'll see if that will happen tonight, but it's front 6. Any one of these drivers can take this one, Evan, and this is the joy of Superspeedway racing. Anybody can win, and any one of these 8, 10 guys here, I think has a shot.
Yeah, anybody can win these races any week in and week out, and again, if we get these late race restarts, we always say, you know, how many cars are on the lead lap? 23? Okay, 23 cars can win this race. That's true. Makes it a lot easier on you, though, if you're one of the top 5 or the top 10. You're within striking distance. You don't necessarily have to rely on, a lot of chaos coming into the tri-oval and maybe crossing the start-finish line on your lid, which, to be fair, we've seen here in the past. We've also seen 2 finishes in our coverage of this series that went to less than the iRacing scoring system of the 1,000th of a second, actually showed up as a tie on the iRacing official scoring loop. So, been some time since we've seen one of those. We'll have 12 laps to go this time around, never getting that much closer to the point of no return at 5 to go, which, as everybody is familiar with, is the point at which a caution flag would end this race. Not all that far away from that, inside of maybe 5 minutes till we get to that point.
It certainly will be, and this is when these guys will be on the absolute edge, Evan. This is the time when things really get busy. And look at them scattering here at the front. Everyone's trying to find an advantage. We need to see this top lane get hooked up. That will be critical to this one. Can they make this work? Watford is looking strong. Ottmans, though, has the controlling position. He has that kind of default lead spot, but the 21 comes up and gets room to slot back in front of the 3 again. But we have seen DHI have broken up. They were the powerhouse team that's really managed to get hooked up tonight, and they are not close together again. That could be a problem for them. That 7 needs to find the 20. The 20 has to find a hole and get to that top side.
Sometimes things like that just kind of happen. You end up getting separated, and again, it's a lot harder to be able to stay in a close-knit group like that late in this race when everybody starts to calculate their moves a little bit more. But you have to think, I mean, it's not a surprise that those guys are on the same team. The drivers on the track know who their teammates are. They know who the other teams are, and you know, those DHI machines make it a little bit easier to tell, especially for us at a quick glance to know who's with who, because those Dark Horse cars have that bright yellow stripe on the roof. But you have to think, Rachel, maybe because they had been running together so long for the course of this race, and I mean almost start to finish up front, that it maybe gave the guys behind them a little bit too much notice on what they were trying to do, and those guys maybe worked a little bit more intentionally trying to separate some of those guys.
Certainly is at the moment, and well, the separations worked. These guys do that on purpose, Evan. They work to get between teammates and break up those team groups. It plays into your own hands if you can mess with theirs. Wofford, though, well, he's going to work with anybody, and Chaburko is one of those wild cards as well who could do anything here, and that's one to keep an eye on because he will work with anybody. He will break up anybody on purpose as we get past the lap car there of the 98 machine of Andy Kessler. We knew he was going to get caught at some point. That car had damage from the last big one here at Talladega. This thing's fan out on the backstretch. We'll see if they can get hooked up. More traffic up here on the outside lane. This could be a good chance, and it's clear for 7. Oh, he slices in front of the 51 car of Ottman's. That was knife edge close.
No surprise, I think, really, as this thing continues to wind down, that it's kind of funny that we have 16 drivers within a second of each other, but there's quite a bit of space up front. The 51 to the apron, forcing the 7 out of the way. I was just talking about how there's more space inside of the top 5 than from 6th through back, and the 83 lost the injured. Ramon Evans not going to get career win number 2, and he can't get out of the way in time. Contact as they try to find a way through, and it looks like somehow they will funnel through in one piece. And somehow Jason Altmans is still your race leader out in front.
Of course, big disadvantage there for the 87 car. He got caught up in that one. And Rayburn out of 3rd. He just, second even, just tapped the back of him. So did the 89 car of Matt and Quick. And how we didn't have a big junk there. The 83 car blew his motor, folks. No engine, jetting smoke. And somehow these guys kept racing without a crash. This is the sort of standard we're talking about here in the Superspeedway Cup Series. These guys are the best at this sort of racing. Only the best could avoid that being another big one, Evan.
Yeah, so there was a lot going on there in a small amount of time. What I was talking about was the guys up front had so much space. That's why you could see them making those moves, going up to the outside and then diving back down to the bottom. Is they had a little bit more space to work. And sometimes it's not necessarily a thing that you might assume it would be, which, you know, more space you would assume means that less likelihood of guys getting together. You give these guys an inch, they will attempt to take a mile. And we've seen quite a few times somebody try to make that dashing move down to the bottom. That one was a little bit closer to that double yellow line that I think they would have liked.
Absolutely, and this is separated out the front now after that moment we've had. And right now it's Ottman's leading from Walker, Hedrick, Chaburko. This one has really spread a little bit in the moment. We'll have to see if this one can get reformed on the outside because there's only 3 cars right now. Chaburko, Wofford, and that 54 car of Monsalves. We need to see if they can get forward here and get some guys to come up with them as well. Try and make this one work. But right now, the 51, the 20, and the 21, they are happy where they are. So is the 3 of Paul Servant. He's in a great spot tonight for where he's been running recently. But we see a run starting Chaburko and 7 of Wofford. They're going to start moving forwards.
Almost at the point at where this race is going to be at that point-to-no return. Again, these Talladega races at both Daytona and Talladega, 250 miles start to finish. Talladega just that 0.16 of a mile longer means that we only have to get 94 laps to get to the end. And I believe it'll be 6 laps to go this time by. Chaburko to the outside of the racetrack, working with the 7 Rodney Watford, 2 of the most winningest drivers in Superspeedway Cup Series history. That 22 at Chaburko sits with 16 wins. Second only to the driver of the number 7, Rodney Watford, who has 18 wins. If there's any 2-driver combination that you don't want to see coming up on you, it's those 2.
Look at this work here, Evan. This is exactly why they are the 2 winningest drivers in this series. All the way round the front, they were side-sucking off that bottom lane. Here comes 21 and 76 to work with them. They see a good thing when it's happening. But that was it. The side-suck, the side draft, and it worked for them. Doing it again here. 2 cars wide, 8 cars in the bottom lane there. You just saw 4 long on each lane. And it worked just right for the Watcher 22. He will snap down here. If he gets a second's breadth, he will drop in front of that 51 of Upman's. We'll see if he's going to do it. He's clear. He will drop. And what did we expect? He went for it. Chberko to the lead here on lap 90 of 94. Can he control this for 4 laps?
The next flag to end this race is either going to be a checkered flag or a yellow flag. We're going to find out because we're at lap number 90 of 94 on tonight. Only 4 laps to go. This next time by the start-finish line. The 22 in control. We know that Chberko is not going to be shy of blocking the field, but contact behind. The 21 all kinds of out of shape, and somehow they don't wreck him. Big save in the corner.
It was a huge save in the corner there. We'll try and get a replay of what has happened for you, Evan. We're staying on the lead right now.
Track clear, we're staying green according to the tower. Staying green.
It is indeed Ottmans with Chberko leading the 20 car there of Walker. Two sets of teammates were being told. So, of course, it's Chberko and Ottmans' teammates, of course, behind them. The 20 car of Walker and the 7 of Warford are teammates here. So this is 2 pairs. We're going to see some old-school tandem racing here. But with these few laps left and only 4 cars here, have they got a chance to get past that 22 car, Evan?
We'll see. You got the chicken wing guys running right now in 1-2. Chberko and Altman's a pretty dynamic duo, but again, that 7 of Ronnie Watford is still right there. Brandon Chberko, often regarded as the most recognizable name in this series, he's been around since really this thing got kind of hard to miss him on the racetrack. But again, a lot of people aren't familiar with the fact that Ronnie Watford does have 2 more career wins than that 22 does. Chberko has had good runs, but he has not been as dominant in these last couple of seasons as he was maybe 4 or 5 seasons ago, in which he would win 4 or 5 races a year, seemingly for a couple of seasons in a row. So we'll see if the 22 is able to park it in victory lane. We already had another staple marker in the series, Mark Jorgensen Jr., get this championship kicked off with his win in the Superspeedway 500 1 week ago, and now it is a waiting game. 5th on the back is over a 2nd back. They're not going to be a part of this thing. It's 2 sets of 2. It's old school up front. We'll see who makes the move.
We certainly will, and of course it's not just 2 by 2, it's 2 sets of teammates, as we just said, of course, and that's going to make this one super interesting. The tactics will be strong here on lap 93. Next lap by, that is a white flag, and we'll have 1 more lap to go after this one here at Talladega Superspeedway, Alabama, and it is on. 4 cars, 1 winner, who will take the flag.
The draft package on this service is very much a pack racing format. Again, we were talking about pushing and explaining that, well, very rarely are these guys actually pushing. They're tight on the bumper, they give a shot here or there, but it's very difficult for them to get hooked up. Now we're in a scenario where the 22 may be working with the 51. Looks like the 20 could be working with the 7. It looks like 2 sets of 2-car tandems. Does Jason Altman stay loyal to the back bumper of Brandon Chberko, or does he have other plans in mind? White flag this time.
White flag is out, and will Altman go for that run? Altman could go for it if the 20 gets up here, Evan. They will definitely try and take the advantage for himself in the 51 car, but the 22 car now is looking strong. I don't think they have a chance. The 20 is going to have a look. The 7 will come with him, but they're not going to be close enough to make this work. They'll go, though. They will go. Will he be able to defend? They've got the run. This is what they needed, Evan.
Might have been a little bit too early. We'll see. It boxes the 51 in. Jason Altman has no other option but to push on the back bumper of the 22. Final time off of quarter number 4. Can Derek Walker get the help he needs? The 7 not able to get to the bumper, and I think they're both going to come up shy. Brandon Chberko holds the double yellow line, and he'll get career win number 17. Got it, your winner tonight from Talladega.
Wofford, I think, has blown up there, actually, or ran out of fuel or something, Evan, at the last moment, because he dropped off the back of that 4 car. He was pushing hard on the 20, so I think he's actually blown that motor. No,
yeah, he's out of gas, is what we're hearing. Wow.
He made it, though. He made it in 4th place, but he was out of gas. That's how close they were there. But Brandon Chberko taking that win, involved in 2 of the big ones here tonight, and he will take that checkered flag. That 22 car, that is looking the worst for wear, but that Motorcraft 22 team have held that thing together with every piece of tape in the garage.
In all honesty, I think when we got that final restart with about 27, maybe 30-ish laps to go in this race, we didn't realistically expect these guys to get all the way to the end in one piece, especially considering how they were driving. A couple of guys ran out of fuel on that
Jaberko's
final
out of
lap.
gas too.
Yeah, Monza Vice ran out of gas. I believe Dominique Dyball ran out of gas. So I said they should be good on gas to the end, and they were, but not with much more than about a quarter of a track to go. The 22 is getting some assistance back to the start-finish line.
I don't think we'll see any donuts tonight from Jaberko. His car is a little bit out of the old motion lotion here at Talladega, as he'll have a bit of a spin across the line, but I think that's all he can muster here. No big donuts from that 22 machine, but he does kind of a half a donut in reverse. An appropriate celebration for what we did not expect to go to the end. And these guys ran these tanks dry, Evan. That was a
in all
fantastic
honesty,
end.
I think Brandon Jaberko would be the kind of guy to save gas under green so he had enough gas to do burnouts. I wouldn't be surprised.
It could possibly be, but unfortunately looks like that was him done there, and he has in fact run out of fuel. But he made it. That's the important thing, and what a finish we saw there. We expected him to try, but to run it that close, I don't think anybody had enough to go for that one at the end. I think if they'd have had another lap or two of fuel, we would have seen a completely different end to this race.
The tough pill to swallow for Derek Walker. You had to think, what if the guy who started on pole position in this race was in a great spot on the outside, and the 7 started to sputter, I think, in the center of the corner, which is why he dropped off the bumper and just had nothing for him. And it kind of boxed Jason Altman's in too, because Derek Walker was able to use that side draft to stay there, and they just kind of locked each other up, and Brandon Jaberko was able to tiptoe across the line and pick up his first win on the season and lock himself into the season 14 chase for the championship, along with your race winner from just 1 week ago, Mark Jorgensen Jr. Jaberko looking to get career championship number 2, if he would be able to do that in a couple of months' time. We'll take this opportunity to step aside one final time from Talladega, and when we come back, we will go to Victory Lane with Mr. Brandon Jaberko. We'll also talk with the rest of your top finishers, get you set for the next race on the campaign in 1 week's time, back from Daytona. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series on iRacing Live post-race, coming right up.
The straights are unbelievably long. The first time you come here, everyone tells you, you'll be flat out 6th gear for 20 seconds. First time I was here, I lifted halfway down the straight. I didn't believe that it was still going. I was waiting to brake, and I was back on the power. And the Porsche curves are extremely fast and extremely narrow, so it's a tricky track, and every year I've come here, you learn something new every time.
Le Mans is so fast. Wherever you accelerate, you are over 150 miles per hour. Going there, I realized everything you have done before was nothing.
And back live from the Talladega Superspeedway. We'll go trackside and talk with tonight's race winner, Brandon Chiburko, in just a moment. First, we'll take this opportunity to take a look at tonight's full race results for round number 2. Brandon Chiburko, your winner tonight, started 31st, and Jason Altmans also picks up 30 spots, goes 30th to P2 tonight. Derek Walker comes home inside of the top 3 after starting on pole. We'll go trackside with them in just a moment. Rodney Wofford finishes 4th tonight. Dominique Dyball, an impressive result, comes home inside of the top 5. Scott Warren, Joel Wood behind him have good nights. They net a 6th and 7th place finish respectively. 8th place for Garrett Atwell tonight. Frank Basilia just one more spot behind in 9th. And a final driver inside of the top 10, Brandon Cruz Montsevice.
Coming home tonight in 11th place was Andrew Berger. Behind him, Dan Harrington, Paul Servant, Gary Champion, and Ray Ritnell second. Your top 15, Matt Quick, Kelly Dahl, Glenn Hedrick, Roger Stewart, and Larry Camp rounding out your top 20.
First driver, 1 lap down, 21st tonight for Andy Kessler. Talking about the rest of these guys. Also on the racetrack behind Kessler, Henry was 21st, Andy Kessler 22nd, and Ramon Evans in 23rd. The rest of the guys behind the fence, their night ended a little bit soon. They finished on the flatbed. 24th for Greg Cooks and Scott Saunders, 25th. Through 30th position, Rod Flagg, Josh Hanner, Josh Vickery, Chris Passini, and Shane McKeechin in that number 30 spot. And final cars in the field tonight, 31st, Mark Jorgensen Jr., Daniel Holloway in 32nd, and Dwayne Cooper in 33rd. Now we go trackside to Victory Lane. Brandon Chiburko is your winner tonight from Talladega, and we are down with the driver of the number 22. Chubbs, congratulations. It is career win number 17. You're within striking distance now of getting after Rodney and tying for the most series wins all time. But I know that you expect to be in these positions every week, and tonight you were able to lock it up.
Yeah, it feels good to have win 17 for sure. I've been in a little bit of a drought. I haven't been in victory lane in quite some time. I was a little unorthodox for me. I was kind of semi-panicking when Derek and Rodney were behind us in 3rd and 4th. I thought they were definitely going to have the advantage in the closing laps, and luckily somehow we were able to hang on to it.
This race had a couple of big ones off in corner number 4, and then we had that late race restart, and in all honesty, normally when you go and do the final 1/3 of the race or so with the caution flag, you don't expect it to go green from that point to the end. You had enough gas off of that restart to get to the checkered flag, not enough to do some burnouts. Some people didn't have enough gas to get as far as you did. How aware were you guys of that fuel situation?
I started looking about with 2 to go when someone actually had brought it up, and I had about 8 tenths, so I knew I was going to be cutting it close, because I know it takes about 4 tenths a lap, so I knew I was going to be cutting it super close on fuel, and I was just trying to do my best. I knew I couldn't really save at that point, because there was only 2 to go, so, I mean, it was just all out at that point, and hope for the best.
So this win locks you guys into the chase for the championship along with Mark Jorgensen Jr., who did so 1 week ago. So the way this works is you get a win and you're in, and then the top 5 guys in points outside of a win. I know that you would very much like to make Rod have to go through a lot of math at the end of the season and pick up a couple of wins going forward. So while you kind of get into this lame duck area where for the next 12 weeks, I won't say it doesn't matter where you finish because you're already locked in. Of course, if you're able to rack up some points, it'll help you guys when you get to the championship because you're going to be able to start with 5 bonus points for every single win. But despite the fact that you already like to drive on the ragged edge, is that a good way to put it? Does this win allow you to maybe do a little bit more of that? Because I know that you guys have noted that you haven't been to victory lane in some time. Not that we haven't seen you driving up front, just it's been a while since we've seen you close one of these things out. So what's it going to be like going forward?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think it lifts a huge burden off our shoulders on the 22 team. Moving forward, I think it's going to give us a little bit more strategy on being able to do some crazy stuff here in the future, so stay tuned.
Sponsors, the shout-outs, and all those good folks. Chiburko, who makes it happen for you?
Oh, yeah, I got to thank Jason Ullman's Designs for the paint scheme, Ford Motorcraft for coming on board, as always, and Rod Flagg and you guys for broadcasting.
The race winner tonight, Brandon Chiburko, career win number 17. And as we noted, just one away from tying Rodney Wofford for the most series all time. Chubbs, thanks for chatting. Congratulations. And I'm sure we'll have our eyes on you again next week.
All right. Thank you, Evan.
Your winner tonight from Talladega. I'll pass things down trackside now. Rachel Whiteford with the drivers who come home in 2nd and 3rd. But first, she's caught up with the driver of the 51, Jason Altmans.
Yeah, thank you, Evan. Here with Jason Altmans, who finished in that number 51 machine, the Best Buy car. Jason, that was quite the finish. You pushed your teammate, Brandon Jaberko, to the win. You got boxed in at the end by the 20 car. How was it coming to the line? You guys were all super close on fuel. It's what we've been talking about since the checkered flag. You kind of didn't have the chance to go for it yourself, but was it close?
Yeah, it was really close. It was kind of interesting. I had pitted with 1 lap to go for the last the restart, and so I was like, I should be fine on gas. So I wasn't paying attention to it at all until kind of towards the end there, and I went, I haven't been saving at all, and all of a sudden I was in the same boat as everybody that hadn't pitted when I did. So we were kind of in a spot that's, second race of the year. Let's just go for it. So whenever I got a chance, I dropped it down to about 95% throttle to save as much as I could, and it ended up being, I think for basically both of us, ended up being exactly what we needed. So the little bit that we were able to save worked, and I pretty much told him, I'm like, if I try to go for the win here, I know that the 20 or the 7 is going to take the win here, and it's going to be chaos. That's crap, one of us didn't win. So I told him with 2 to go, I said, I'm committed, just floor it and we'll figure it out. If you run out of gas, I know if you run out of gas, Brandon, I know that the 7 or the 20 is going to be outside of me, so I'm not going to be able to get around you. So I'll just push you if you got an empty tank, and it ended up working out. We got across the line, and I was able to push him halfway around the track to try to get some donuts for him.
Well, it was certainly a very close one, and fantastic racing between the two of you, of course. 2 pairs of teammates going there to the end. But for yourself in your own position in this one, perhaps now your teammate has a win and is locked into that chase. Maybe next time you guys are in a similar situation, he will set you up for the win for yourself?
No, he gets a little taste of a win, and all of a sudden that's going to be it for him. He's like, "Man, that was a lot of fun." Oh, what? I got 17 wins, and I got a couple more to catch back up to Rodney. No, he'll be blocking me so that he'll set a record this year or something.
Easy killer. I ain't bad
stat. We just had a comment from Brandon Chaburko there, but obviously the consummate teammate in Jason Altmans. Jason, who do you want to give a shout out to?
Big thank to Rod Flag for running the league. Thank you to Evan for showing up for this race and doing a great job. Instead of being out in, looking at monster trucks. Yeah,
I got bad news for you next Friday.
Oh no, not good. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me, Evan. Oh wait. And so the other things, Jason Altmans Designs. It's a really great company. Trading Paint's another really good company. Otherwise, Brandon Jaberko for helping me out just to stay in number 2. LSRTV, you guys are great. That is all.
That was Jason Altmans, who finished in second place tonight in the number 51 car, who appreciates everyone apparently but me. And next we'll have a quick chance to chat to the 20 car of Derek Walker, who came home in third place tonight. Derek, it was close between yourself and your teammate Rodney Wofford, and of course the 2 of Jaberko and Altmans. But third place tonight, best you could get. Things looked super close.
Yeah, we were giving it all we had, but I first off wanted to say good job to Jason and Brandon for the win there, because they did an excellent job keeping us behind them there. We had a big run, and Rodney had to start up front on that last restart, and it just burned all of his fuel, not being able to tuck in and lift a little bit on that long run. I don't know how Jason was able to do it, but somehow he did it and got through to the end. But I think we would have had a shot. Had he not run out of fuel right there at the end, it would have been a shootout.
So good points for you as the season will progress onwards, of course, back to Daytona next week, and you're in a great spot to go looking for a win yourself next time out. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, all kinds of people, really. You guys do an awesome job, Rod, for putting on the league, and my whole team, DHI, there's a whole slew of them: Chris, Rodney, Corey, Greg, Josh, and Miss Bassini, the boss. My sister's watching, Shay, my dad, my friend Lauren, and just everybody that's watching and involved in this. It's a lot of fun.
Well, congratulations today on third place for Derek Walker. Comes home in the number 20 car there. Evan, back up to you in the booth. I believe you're standing by with Rod Flag.
Yeah, Rod Flag, will grab a quick word with him before we step aside. Rod, I know that we updated everybody on the fact that Jorgensen was able to get the win in Daytona following some post-race stuff. Luckily, tonight we were able to get the distance in. The season gets set to get underway. I know that we've been tweaking with the format here and there, and we've been talking a little bit tonight about how this championship chase works. Just wanted to give you an opportunity to maybe say something.
Well, yeah, well, it's exciting to give everybody a little heads up what's going on. I mean, we have now Brandon Chaburko locked in the chase, Mark Jorgensen Jr. locked in the chase. They have to stay in the top 25 points. They can't just back off. They have to definitely continue to race and give their best effort. But they could potentially take a race or two off if hell they need to do it. But the great thing is we were off to a great start. We had a great race at Talladega. Did not have any server issues tonight, and just really exciting to see Brandon Chaburko back in victory lane. I was down there and giving him a handshake and told him how proud I was. He hadn't had a win since 2015, so it's great to see the 22 car back in victory lane. We'll just look forward to next week. We'll be back at Daytona under the lights, and right after the 24 hours of Daytona, which is happening tomorrow in iRacing. I encourage all the viewers who are iRacing fans to, if you don't have a team already, sign up for a team. It's a lot of fun to be part of that 24 hours of Daytona because I'll be part of it. A lot of these Superspeedway drivers will be a part of it, and hope again we'll look forward to a great race and. Next Friday.
We'll let everybody take off because I believe the session for the 24 may have just opened up about 2 minutes ago, and we'll have cars on track for that in about 28 minutes or so. So these guys are going to take off, and we'll let everybody get going. Do want to give you an update on what the points are going to look like. So Chaburko, Jorgensen, they jumped to the top of the pile with 1 trip to victory lane apiece. If you would go down through the rest of the top 12 at minimum. From there, Atwell, Wofford, Walker, Monsivice, Basilia, Berger, Harrington, Dyball, McEachin, and Hanner at the moment. So we look forward to Daytona once again in 1 week's time, Rachel. A little bit of a different dynamic. 6 more laps down in Daytona Beach to be able to get to our 250-mile marker, but that one should be good as well.
Certainly should be, Evan, of course. And Daytona a little bit narrower, so a different race to Talladega, and that's the flavour we love here, of course, in the Superspeedway Cup Series. So can't wait to head back there, and believe you're not going to be around, so I'll be leading the folks around Daytona.
We'll let everybody take off. That does it for us here tonight from the Talladega Superspeedway. Did want to give one more call to Casey Malone for making tonight's race possible and being the presenting sponsor for this second race. You can get more information on the Superspeedway Cup Series online at superspeedwaycup.com, and you can also get more information on LSRTV on our website at www.livesimracing.com. We hope that you're with us tomorrow night at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern for the United Sim Racing B&C Lawn and Landscaping Truck Series. You can also find a full Outlook broadcast schedule on that website, but we are also going to be live streaming our LSRTV team as well through the iRacing 24 that starts tomorrow morning. So we encourage you to follow with that on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/LSRTV. We also encourage you to stay up to date with us on social media. You can give us a follow on Twitter at LSRTV. You could also give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/LSRTV official. As always, on behalf of the entire team at LSRTV LLC, for the folks behind the scenes and for the broadcast crew tonight, for myself, Evan Pasoko, for Rachel Whiteford, we'll give a shout out to Austin Coop, who was hanging out earlier, and of course for our producer Cisco Scaramuzzo. I want to congratulate Brandon Chaburko as the next driver to punch his ticket into the Superspeedway Cup Series chase. We will see you when we come back at it again next Friday night from Daytona. Until then, good night.
Sorry, guys, about showing up late.